Yep.
Welcome. My name's Chris, and I'll be your host for the day. Here, welcome to Cardinal House. It is right now September 6th, 11 in the morning, at least where I'm at in Dallas, Texas. But we're gonna go ahead and get it started with Equinox. Did I pronounce that right? I never know if I pronounce that
Yeah,
correctly.
Equinox is pretty much correct.
Okay, awesome. So we'd like to do things a little bit differently here. I think we'd much prefer to get to know the founder a little bit, get to know whoever's here with us a little bit more, learn about the team, just that little icebreaker to kind of dive into things and everything like that. So, if you guys are in the audience, if you wouldn't mind checking out, I'm gonna make this a public channel real quick, but we have our AMA polls channel, and we like to take the project lead through a bunch of questions, see if they're, similar to the audience. Maybe they're a little bit different. Totally fine either way. But kind of
Where
get,
where's this channel?
so I'm
It's
pulling it up
under.
right now. Yeah, it is currently private. And then here we go. You guys should all be able to see it now. But I'll read these questions out loud and then we'll kind of get into them if you're ready. Can you guys see them?
Perfect. Perfect. Let's go.
Awesome. All right. So first bit, would you rather sort by price or by rating?
Oh wait, where are these? I'm looking at AMA polls.
Yes, they're in AMA polls.
Okay. Price or what? Rating.
Or rating, yes.
Rating.
Rating all the time.
Most. Yeah. Pretty much.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Are you a morning bird or night owl?
Oh, I don't sleep at all.
Ever? You're both?
Yeah. I don't get to sleep a lot. I mean, obviously running a different project is very hard work, and
Mhm.
we've been around for a while, and it's the more you expand, the more work you have to do actually. So it's not like your workload gets any lighter. And then obviously crypto is 24/7, right? So sometimes investors or people want like other businesses or contacts like partnerships and stuff. They want answers like right now, and if it happens to be in the middle of the night, you just got to do it. So yeah, I take
Mhm.
naps though throughout the day when it's a low like a lull kind of a lull period.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Awesome. Uh Podcasts or books?
Books, I have a lot of those.
Cool. What's your favorite one? Well, what are you
I
reading right
like
now?
Well, what right now I'm actually reading 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. That's one
Okay.
that I've been catching up on for quite a while. I like the way that he analyzes things through a data perspective.
Mhm.
I do have a little bit of psychological background from my tertiary education, but
Mhm.
I like I like the data points more than the narrative.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
Yeah, he definitely analyzes things very uniquely and very well. Um
Right. I
are you
the although actually recently I've been reading more boring books, so to speak. But when I was yeah when I was a lot younger, I do read a lot of fantasy, and I think Stephen King The Dark Tower is one of my favorite ones.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, hence
That's awesome.
hence the reference to cowboys in the beginning of the conversation.
Sweet. I love it. Are you more of an introvert or extrovert?
Okay, so I've taken many personality tests, and I've always triggered off both introvert and extrovert on many different ones. So I would think if you go for the classical definition of an extrovert, where you are energized by interpersonal reactions rather than tired by them, I would technically be an extrovert. But I don't feel that way like all of the time. There are many situations where engaging in high intensity interpersonal interactions actually tires me out more than it energizes me. But in other cases, it doesn't. So yeah, that's a hard one to answer though.
100%. I think I'm the same way. I love talking to a lot of people, but at the same time, sometimes you just want to hang out, you know? But I do feel like I gain a lot of energy when I am around people. So it's like this weird balance. Um,
Exactly.
do you like plans or surprises?
Plans, definitely plans. I don't dislike surprises. I would like to believe I do adapt to situations fairly well, but I prefer there to be at least some semblance of a plan. Um, Pretty good at doing shit, cowboy, but yeah, I prefer plans.
Yeah, I have to say this is the one that is the most even among all of them. Everyone or surprise is won by one vote, but it's it's pretty even across the board. That's a tough one. Uh, do you prefer real estate or stocks?
Uh, in what sense? Do you mean do I if I were to buy them or if I
Yes,
were to
for
assess
investing.
their?
If you had
Oh,
$200,000 to go into real estate or stocks today, what would it be?
okay. Well, the quick answer is real estate, but based on my geographical location, real estate is not the best idea. So I live in Southeast Asia, and the exact place where I'm from, if many of you would recognize the accent, I that real estate here is ridiculously expensive, and you can't own it for any valuable amount of time. And before you see ROI, it's going to be years and years and years. So actually,
Mm-hmm.
real estate where I'm from is not a good investment for 200 for around the 200K budget or like a 200K capital investment. If you want to do real estate here, it's like millions. Then you start seeing real cash. But if if I were in a different geographical location, I would definitely choose real estate.
Gotcha. Very, very interesting, actually. That definitely makes sense. Um,
Mm,
would you prefer to purchase Bitcoin or Ethereum? You have $10,000. You got to go all into one. Which one is it?
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
I believe I believe that Bitcoin will be the well, not to sound cliche, but it's going to be the digital gold, right? And there are many reasons for that. I think people are starting to look at it as an asset, as that kind of asset class where
Mm-hmm.
it kind of backs up money in many ways. So like you people will kind of use digital money to use Bitcoin to collateralize against digital money, which I think is the future. And I think Bitcoin is definitely the most viable candidate for that. It doesn't have to be fast. Like the network itself doesn't have to be fast and everything. It's
Mm-hmm.
just it has to hold the value across time and space, and it does that a lot better than gold, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Very, very interesting. I like the analysis, though. Are you more of a logical or emotional person?
I would like to think of myself as more logical, although I do get quite emotional sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. By and large, I prefer logic, but there are certain aspects of my job now, right? I mean, what I do in DeFi and stuff like,
Mm-hmm.
especially sometimes being a spokesman or anything, where emotion is required
Yeah.
in order to move people or to get people on board with your vision. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say there's an extremely large well of emotion that I have that I can draw from. But I think more on a day-to-day basis, I operate mostly on logic.
Gotcha. I think definitely being the lead of the project super important to, have that logical side. But yeah, that emotion definitely where I'm a lot more emotional. I am logical, but I also I feel like I can tone it back and think a little bit more logically at times. Um.
I think it's good to have the base meaning like you
Mm-hmm.
can a lot of your logic can be driven by your emotion
Mm-hmm.
in many ways because you use that in order to motivate yourself and to encourage and to inspire. So that's quite important to have that.
Yeah, 100%. Would you rather watch or play sports?
I well,
If you're not
I
into
would rather
sports, that's
play.
totally fine. You'd rather play?
I would rather play, but I'm not very good at sports. I'm not really good at many sports. I do like work out and then I try to stay as fit as I can, but I yeah, I don't think I can ever be a competitive sports player.
I gotcha. I gotcha. What's your sport of choice if you were to just go out and play something for fun, with some friends?
Probably soccer.
Okay.
If depending on which part of the world you're, it's football. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
yeah,
Awesome.
right.
I love it. And then last up, what are you most passionate about in the DeFi space and why?
Okay, so this is a tough one. I think I think so. One of the reasons why I got into decentralized finance in the first place was because I understood that between between the revenue or like between profit and the end user is a much shorter route. Like for example, in traditional finance or banks, there's so many things in between, right? You have the cost of the bank itself, like they have to buy the building, pay the employees, they have to things that go on in between
Mm-hmm.
the yield and the end user, which is why yield in traditional finance is so low. But for decentralized finance, it's pretty much your wallet, and then you connect to the yield farm, and then you just get the yield straight. So there isn't much in between, and I like that it's speed more than anything. To me, I like
Mm-hmm.
the fact that you can just do everything instantly, and I like the fact that you can do things 24/7. I used to trade stocks a little bit, and a lot of forex actually before I got into DeFi. And one of the annoying things is that markets close, and then you just got to wait for the weekend, and you got to wait for the news, wait for people to give speeches and stuff. But with crypto and DeFi in particular, you can literally look at the chart every single 5 minutes is going to be different, and you
Mm-hmm.
can base what you're going to do on a very very quickly. Like your analysis can be done very very quickly, and I think yield gets to the end user very much quicker. But the
Mm-hmm.
disadvantage of the DeFi space in that respect is that the life cycle of many let's say bull or bear runs is very much short. It's much compressed, much more compressed when you compare it to traditional finance. So I like the speed, but with that also comes the disadvantage of having to be fast in order to get your profit up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. I think your analyses. I'm not sure how to make that plural. Your analysis of everything has been very very on point. So I really do appreciate a lot of those answers. That is really really awesome to kind of hear someone else's thoughts on all these things. But now, if you are ready, let's get into Equinox and what Equinox is. Let's get into in order to get into that first. So we want to go a little bit more into you, what your background is, what role you play on the team, and we'll get it started now.
Right. I wasn't back when Ames DeFi was the three projects.
I'm sorry, you cut out.
Sorry, is my mic up again?
It sounded a little better now, but it's I like you said, it's definitely not the best mic, but totally fine. If you wouldn't mind
All right.
restarting that though.
Okay. So well, basically, I lead the team
Mm-hmm.
in many ways. So I direct the vision of where we're going. I do a lot of the tokenomics. I used to do a lot of the marketing and the partnerships, but we've managed to expand our team so that a lot of that is delegated right now. But yeah, I kind of lead the vision of the team and help to build um Ames DeFi Alto protocol as well as Equinox. When I first got in the team in February, we were below 50k TVL, and we at 15 cents. And if for those who don't know, Ames DeFi is actually it's a Toon fork, right? So it's supposed to be pegged to BUSD. In our case, it's a stable coin. So we were very very low at that time, and then got in the team, got to know everybody, made friends with everyone, enacted a plan in order to try and get us back. And we fought back and got back our pack. I think from like 7 cents or 15 cents, like 3 or 4 times now, and just continue to build the space out. Um, I don't attribute a lot of the success or failures to myself or the team in particular. I think the community that we've built is also an extremely powerful one. We've got a lot of loyal people who are in the community who definitely run the optimal or best strategy in order to make the everything go well. And for that, I'm very, very grateful. Good communities are few and far between in DeFi. So that is my place on the team. And as far as Equinox goes, it is the final, let's say, it is the it's the thing that we needed to tie everything together, which is why we conceptualized the idea of coming out with our own decks. So originally, it was supposed to be a normal Uniswap or PancakeSwap fork, but then we realized we can just do so much more with and be a lot more scalable as far as offering a product to the market goes. If we were to do a balancer style decks, and that is what Equinox is. It's I wouldn't call it a fork because it does require a lot of custom code, but yeah, Equinox is definitely based on the balancer infrastructure, and because of that, we are able to offer very very low swap fees and slippage, especially for stablecoin and blue chip crypto swaps on our platform. That's one. Second thing, we can have up to 8 tokens in a single liquidity pool, and you can have 8 reward tokens as well. And any project or any protocol who decides to host liquidity on us can do a myriad of very, very interesting things with their liquidity. Instead of the traditional 50-50, you can have weighted pools like 80-20, 90-10, 95-5. You can have that as well. You
Mm-hmm.
can instantaneously add rewards to the reward pool. So if you wanted to have like a farm, and if you wanted PancakeSwap to give you cake rewards to your liquidity pool, it'll probably take you years before they even answer an email, and you probably have to have like millions and millions of TVL anyway. So you won't even need it at that point. But for us, you can just actually do that off the bat, and you can incentivize your own liquidity. You can incentivize users to provide liquidity to your liquidity pool right off the bat. And you can define the reward token as well as the time frame that you want to reward it to. So that's a little pitch for the project owners who would like to host liquidity on us.
Hmm.
And we also sorry, so we also have a voting escrow system that we have integrated. That's very similar to how VBell works, and I think the originator of this particular concept was Curve Wars. So the whole bribing thing and the whole concept of using votes to direct emissions, aka
Hmm.
increase APRs of the pool that you like. That all exists on our platform, and we have that in full swing. And yeah, that's I guess that's a pretty long summary of Equinox.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And I wouldn't necessarily even say that was long. You went about everything pretty succinctly. Um, Kind of just touching on the one piece that you'd mentioned. You said that there are now it is now available to have, or it's now possible to have 8 pairs on a token. Is that correct? Or 8 paired tokens?
It is. It is okay. So in a normal in the liquidity pools that people are usually familiar with, it's two tokens, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then it's 50-50, 50% one token, 50% the other one. And then as you trade, the price moves up, moves down. There's the spot price, market price, there's bots, arbitrage, blah blah blah. But in our case, we have you can have up to 8 in one liquidity pool.
Mm-hmm.
So so if you are a project or a collection of projects, right, who have a bunch of different native tokens, and you want to have all of it in one liquidity pool, which will function very much like a index of your entire
Mm-hmm.
ecosystem. You can have that. You can have that, and instead of just holding the tokens, people can put it up as liquidity and start earning swap fees and extra yield on it
Mm-hmm.
while they're holding a token. So one of the biggest advantages is not just project owners, right? But anybody can create their own 8 token liquidity pool. So let's say you don't want to participate in DeFi or anything in crypto at all except for holding Bitcoin, Ethereum, and BNB. You can do that. You can have the 3 tokens you can create a liquidity pool, define what ratios you want of each. So if you want to have more Bitcoin, you can have that. If you want to have less BNB, you can have that. Then you can have and then you can put that up as liquidity on the DEX and start earning swap fees until you feel it's the right time to withdraw. And the beauty about this is, in unlike a traditional liquidity pool where 50-50, as one side gets more buys or sells, the balance changes for balancer dexes, it auto rebalances it. So if you put in 80% Bitcoin and 10% Ethereum, 10% BNB, no matter what happens with the swapping and all of that stuff, 4 months later you come back, it's still going to be 80-10-10.
Got it. Very interesting. That is really cool, actually. Is there an ability to switch it once you've already launched?
Your create your pool, you can just create another one. You can
Okay.
withdraw the liquidity of your portfolio, and let's say if you wanted to rebalance and say, oh,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I feel like holding a little bit more ETH now, and you can do that as well. Just withdraw and then put them create a new pool, redefine the ratios, done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is very interesting. And definitely the first I've heard of a project actually allowing that, because I know people have manually, created 2 separate pools, but having it all consolidated onto a single location is huge. That's a huge benefit, huge time saver, and definitely decreases the amount of knowledge around DeFi in order to set that up.
hmm Yeah, it was not an easy task at all. I work Yeah, I work quite closely with our lead dev, and originally I didn't have any coding experience or anything, but I think I've learned quite a lot over the time frame that I've worked with him, because we just hours and hours of calls, him explaining stuff to me explaining stuff to him, and then because there some one you can't have a large disconnect between the tokenomic vision of the protocol and the programming side. Both have to align pretty well in order for the product to function the way that it was designed to function. So
Hmm.
so I do spend quite a lot of hours with Briz, who is our wizard dev, and yeah, it's hard, man. That the system for balance indexes is just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. There are Fiverr devs who can fork Pancake Swap in like 1 day or 2 days, but there's a reason why there's only like 6 balancer forks in existence.
Hmm.
So yeah.
So, what do you guys bring that is completely new to the table? So, outside of the pairs, is that like your main selling point with what Equinox is doing that is kind of new and really trying to branch out and change the norm? Or is there also another piece that you guys bring to the table where it's like this blows other projects out of the water as well?
Right. So this is actually a two-part answer. So the first
Mm-hmm.
part is where um there is something to be said about not trying to reinvent the wheel, which is why
Mm-hmm.
a large portion of the infrastructure is based on balances setup because it works, right. It does very well.
Mm-hmm.
So we took that, but we identified a market gap on BSC because there doesn't exist a balancer DEX with the voting escrow system in integrated. It doesn't exist on BSC, so there's like a large demand for that on BSC, and BSC is um as far as volume and market share goes is one of the larger chains. So it's like we're wondering why it didn't exist on BSC. So we brought it over here, and we want to fill that market gap and perhaps capture a significant portion of the market share from other dexes or aka PancakeSwap. Because right now, if you swap a million USDC into USDT on PancakeSwap, it's gonna cost you like $2,000 or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because of the 0.25 swap fees. But if you do it on ours, it's like maybe $20 or $200, like 0.02%, almost zero, with like almost no slippage as well. So yeah, there's definitely a way that we outcompete traditional Uniswap forks in the area of slippage and swap fees.
Mm-hmm.
That's one. Now the second part of the answer is we are also extending or releasing new features that are going to be attached to our decks that are above and beyond what traditional decks would want to do. So
Mm-hmm.
one of those things is that we want to build an in-house NFT marketplace, which again on BSC, I don't know why it doesn't. There's no open sea of BSC, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
we want to have that, and also we're working on a very 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 cool model to allow any NFT to become yield generating, aka they stake it on our platform and then people can earn yield from it. Because there's a lot of NFTs flying around now that are just JPEGs, right? So
Mm-hmm.
imagine if all those NFTs can be staked on a platform and become yield generating. That instantly increases the demand or utility of that NFT,
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely would
right?
be very interesting. Is it based on the cost of the current market at the time? Or um I guess
It would
how is the I'm sorry, go on.
So okay, so NFTs are all, even though they have like pictures and stuff, they're all
Mm-hmm.
just tokens essentially on
Mm-hmm.
the blockchain. They're all just recognized as tokens. It's just that the data that you can attach to a ERC 721 token is a lot more than a ERC 20. So we're going to be playing with that system, and then build the rewards model for generating NFTs on top of that. I know it sounds complicated, but it really isn't. It's literally
Mm-hmm.
just going to be, hey, just plug your NFT here and then watch it generate some token.
Got it. Got it.
I
Got it.
either provided by the project or by the Equinox platform, depending on how the partnership goes and negotiations, etc.
Gotcha. So it'd be specific, a specific
Yeah.
NFT collection, not open to
Oh
anything,
yeah,
any
open
NFT.
to yes,
Okay.
that's correct. So as in we have to open the farm for it
Mm-hmm.
in if you see what I'm saying.
Yes, yes. So you have to make some kind of collaboration with the owner or with that specific collection. Um, 100%.
Correct. At least that's how it will start. Eventually, the way to scale to mass adoption is for it to be completely permissionless. Means they don't even have to interact with us. They can use the
Mm-hmm.
platform themselves. But in the beginning, it's probably going to have to be on a case by case basis. And obviously, we want to avoid rugs and scams and all of that. So
Yeah.
so it'll be good. It'll be good to get the first, let's say, set of partners or the first collection of NFT partners to be, at least moderately successful projects.
Yeah, 100%. And is there a limit? So going back to the actual the pairing, right, of these different coins and tokens that might be used. Is there a certain number of coins or certain not number of coins, but do you guys have certain coins that are able to be used for backing LP and certain ones that are not, or is it more open to the owner, the project owner's discretion?
What do you mean by backing LP?
I'm sorry. So if you are pairing, right, if you said that you have up to eight options that you can use, are those given by you at Equinox, or are you able to pull from any coins that you want to back your project?
Anyone. So it's like Dexes, all Dexes, you can just anyone can just go there and create a token and list it, right? So same thing. Our
Hmm.
platform we provide, but instead of just 2 and 50-50, you can put 8 with
Okay.
different ratios as well as rewards and stuff. So yeah.
Gotcha. Awesome. It's very, very interesting.
Hmm.
Let's see. So we got a couple questions coming in. If you're good to go through them or start going through them. Um,
Sure.
so about liquidity VC rounds A and B, what are the main differences in each one? Are the tokens acquired in these rounds subject to a vesting or similar program to control the price?
Yes, they're vested over a minimum of 6 months. Some of them were based on certain one-on-one negotiations. Some are 90 days, some were a year. But I think right now, I cannot reveal the exact numbers because of like privacy. But most of them are already locked for a year.
Awesome. And then is the liquidity VC round B permanent or in time, or is it only valid for a certain period of time?
So liquidity VC round A was what was pre-launch because we didn't want to have a pre-sale because we didn't want to give too many tokens off the bat in order
Mm-hmm.
for like you don't want to have too much of your supply out in the open before emissions start. So we didn't have a pre-sale, but what we had was liquidity backing, which was the VC round, which helped to build our TVL and liquidity off the bat, and start with a good amount instead of having to allow like have instead of having to wait for people to create liquidity for the main pool. So that having been said, the liquidity round B round is actually not active yet, and we're looking for to actually improve on the design of it. We're gonna make it an entire kind of a liquidity driver uh,
Mm-hmm.
program or campaign. So we're looking to try and get a lot of large holders in order to build up liquidity across several different pools, not just the main pool, but
Mm-hmm.
definitely the main pool will be a good focus of it.
Gotcha. Awesome. And then someone else came around and said, I saw that we can block AEQ or B for different time periods to get your VE AEQ, right? The Aequinox token. If a user, I'm sorry, if a user wishes to unblock these tokens before the agreed period expires, can he do so? If possible, what would the penalty be for this action?
This is that is not written into the code, so it's not possible to. I think what you're talking about is like an emergency withdrawal. So that usually doesn't turn out well because it will like they will it may cause a cliff sometimes where people just eat the loss to exit, and then what
Mm-hmm.
happens when they do that is so it hurts them, right, and it hurts the
Mm-hmm.
protocol because they're exiting, and then thirdly also they just start flooding the whole thing down because they're not happy with the emergency withdrawal, the tax on withdrawal. So that actually isn't built into the code, and then um yeah, you have to choose your lock times based on
Mm-hmm.
your own risk assessment.
Yeah. So you're kind of stuck once you lock it, which is definitely the way a business should be operating.
Yeah, yeah, you shouldn't. Yeah, I mean, that's true. A lot of people do say that. Now the thing is, I'd like to point out that the optimal strategy
Hmm.
for extracting max profit from Equinox isn't to go all in on the main pool. What you want to do is you want to have a, let's say, an amount of risk capital in the beginning which you are comfortable with, and then let's say you put around half or 60% or 70% into the main pool, and then you lock that up in VAEQ because the VA getting VAEQ confers a bunch of bonuses. First, you can vote for emissions on the other pools. Then you also get 50% of the DEX fees as dividends distributed to all VAQ holders. And if you lock up for the max time frame, then you also get a kind of a farming bonus on all any other pools, any other core pools that you're farming on. So, for example, if you locked up 100 for a year, and then you were farming the stablecoin pool for 1% APY or something, or 100% APY, but because
Hmm.
you're locked up for a year, you may get up to like 250%. So that's the whole idea. You want to use VAEQ and continue compounding your rewards in VAEQ to grow your bank and make sure it uh stays stays large and in charge. And then you go and then yeah, and then you use the rest of your capital as cash flow on the other liquidity pools.
Gotcha. Definitely makes sense. And is there a certain like is it every week that these pools and the voting kind of comes back into play, or how often is that?
Right. So it's defined by epochs.
Hmm.
For the main for the dynamo, that's what we call the voting escrow system, or
Hmm.
VAEQ. Those rewards are distributed on a weekly basis, on an epoch basis, and the reason for that is because there is a voting system, like we mentioned before, that is
Hmm.
attached to the dynamo, where you can direct rewards. So if epochs were 1 day or 2 days, then just like APIs would just shift madly every single day, or other day. Or let's say a large holder can come in and try and swing rewards and then exit the very next
Hmm.
epoch. So yeah, that in in order to benefit from the APRs or the boosted emissions because of your vote, it is much better to have the reward system based on epochs, or 7 day epochs, 1 week epochs.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Definitely makes sense. Um, Next, to exercise voting power using this VAQ, uh, must these tokens be staked in a pool, or do they have to be in a wallet, or both cases are allowed?
VAEQ, okay, so when you invest into the main pool is AEQ Wrap BNB. When you do that, you get the liquidity tokens, right? The LP
Hmm.
tokens. Then you take that over to the Dynamo, and you lock them up for a time frame of your choosing, and then they will be there. That's when you get your VAQ, the moment you complete that transaction.
Hmm.
And the VAQ will be held in your wallet, but it's not transferable. So it's tagged. It's just like a digital signature, and it's like it will be tagged to your that specific wallet, so nobody can steal it away from you.
Gotcha. 100%. Definitely makes sense. And then I guess kind of moving forward, what requirements would a pool need to meet in the boosting using the VAQ votes? Can the pool composition of these pools also be selected through voting, or is the vote only valid to select the boost percentages of the predefined pools?
So I think what you're asking is, how does a pool that is not a core pool get listed as a
Hmm.
core pool and be able to have missions directed to it? Because that's like the whole bribing system, right?
Yes.
So right. So if anybody can create a pool, and then if it gets, let's say, around 50K TVL, and it's proposed to us by the community, or maybe some of the core team members kind of pick it up, and we think, hey, it's a really good idea. Then we'll go back and forth with the leadership of the protocol, or the group of community members who set it up, and then if we approve, we will whitelist the pool and then put it as part of the core pools. That henceforth they will be able to receive AEQ emissions as part of the core pool. And if, for example, it's a project and they had a liquidity pool that entered but via this method, they'd be able to offer bribes to VAQ holders to direct emissions to that pool. So that's where VAEQ holders get extra bonus rewards. The more
Hmm.
the more listing partners and stuff they get onto the V system.
Yeah, awesome. I think that's a super important piece too, because you guys have to manually allow this stuff to happen. I mean, if you guys are looking at, being a long-term player in the space, I mean, it's really important to kind of cover your own liabilities, and you don't want people starting to associate this project at all with, any kind of rug pulls that are launched where people may have, thrown some money into the LP. So definitely an important
Yeah.
piece to remember.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That is exactly why. I mean, we can't just have any malicious tokens just running around rampant, right? This is the
Yeah.
Wild West. Got to have some sheriffs.
Yes, and I think a lot of the use case that you guys are bringing in the utility is going to, one, allow a lot of people that are new to the space to get into these things a lot easier. And with that, like you said, having an unsecure platform is definitely not the way to go when people are not, maybe not as educated as the rest of the people that have been in DeFi for a couple of
Mm,
years now.
mm. Yep, for sure.
100%. Um, and then I guess next up, Wayne actually was asking something unrelated a little bit, but what annoys you the most when tracking your marketing spending?
There is the yeah, but this is something I actually feel quite familiar about. It's there isn't a way to there isn't a actual data tracking way to see how much a influencer has brought in, or like a YouTube video, or influencer, or like sometimes it's quite obvious when the like 5 minutes after the video drops, you just immediately see the chart moving and stuff, and then maybe over the next day it really goes up. But there isn't a way to see your to calculate your cost per customer. I think that's really
Hmm.
important. Because if you're offering an actual product to the market, you really need to calculate how much it costs you based on your marketing
Hmm.
expenditure. Each new holder costs.
Gotcha. That's a
So
very interesting one, and that's not only a DeFi problem.
yeah, but there in traditional businesses, there are many ways
Hmm.
to track that. But in DeFi, is so difficult because
Yeah.
everything is just blockchain, all anonymous. Just it's yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I totally get it with referral links and everything like that in TradFi, but yeah, DeFi definitely would add another layer of complexity to that.
right. And then it could also be that like if influence could unscrupulous influencers could try to game the system and have like 100 wallets all applied by pressure and then immediately sell after, right? So it just kind
Hmm.
of inflates the numbers. And then there's the whole botting problem, and then the bot followers, and etc. etc. Like it's hard, man. It's hard.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's very tough because we're in a we're in a place where we're talking specifically investments that are not as regulated, so it's hard to find exactly who. At least not yet, but it is hard to determine exactly who's the who are the faces behind these these random
Mm-hmm.
numbers on on this wallet address. Um,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
so Papa Big Mac was asking. I believe we went over that with his question. I know that he brought up what was making you stand out from the competition, but correct me if I'm wrong. A lot of it has to do with your slippage being so low, and then also regulating the exchange a little bit more and allowing the eight different paired tokens and coins. Is that correct?
Okay. It's infinite flexibility when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to Equinox. You're not bound to 50 pools. You're not bound
Mm-hmm.
to the 0.25% swap fee that PancakeSwap uses. You're not bound to two tokens in a pool. You're not bound to the ratio. There's so many options that you can have in order to
Mm-hmm.
curate exactly the kind of liquidity pool that will best or you best suit your project.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. Um, with liquidity being as scarce as it is, then how have you guys been doing with the markets being what they are, without keeping liquidity in the whole, in all the pools without hurting the protocol with unsustainable yields or anything on that end?
So for Dexes, it is always the case that there is a large supply shock. It's to be high in the beginning in order to incentivize people to provide liquidity. That hasn't changed since the beginning of Dex times. Now, obviously, the market does play a part because if there simply is more capital flowing through the market, then it will be a lot easier to sustain
Mm-hmm.
higher yields. And at the same time, because of the market conditions that we are in, even though we based our um, code structure on Balancer, we tweaked the emissions to be a little bit lower. So, like for example, they have about 125,000 a week or something tokens that are released, and we released it the same. But we released around 30,000 emissions tokens, so a lot less. And part of the
Mm-hmm.
reason for that is because our projected amount of TVL has to match the kind of yield that we're going for.
Mm-hmm.
So so because of that, there obviously there is a large supply shock in the beginning, and then as the reward token does get traded on the market, it does go down. But at that point, you already had built up the TVL that you wanted. So then you have options, right? Since you now have the TVL, you have the liquidity. Now your product means something. But in the beginning, when nobody has put any liquidity at all, you have to incentivize that in some way. So
Mm-hmm.
that is how that is just the nature of how DEXs start. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of people play DEX tokens a bit wrongly because they think it's a moon coin, but it's not. It's really a reward token, and
Yeah.
that has to see time in order to in order to get some good yield as well as utility. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
as we build out the utility for the DEX token, all of that will come into play.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to get a moonshot token, then it would be something like the share token of a tomb fork. And if you
Mm-hmm.
wanted something to a token to kind of give produce yield on its own, it would be like a rebase token. So
Mm-hmm.
you gotta execute different strategies when it comes to different tokens. But to answer his question, the original question about how we are handling emissions, our emissions taper down as time goes past.
Mhm.
Time passes by. So it starts quite high, and then every 90 days it reduces by 13% compounding. So it eventually, it will taper down, taper down. So the whole idea there is you try and build liquidity as much as possible in the beginning, and all of the people who come in just like anything in DeFi or crypto, the earlier you come
Mhm.
in, the more you earn. So they're all in, and they have all this TVL, and they make a lot of money, and they provide continue to provide liquidity or compound. Then from there, you use that TVL to attract projects and scale the DEX such for mass adoption. That's the plan.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, I love all the strategy pieces behind it. It sounds like you guys have a very, very clear cut strategy to how you're going to go about all this stuff. Um,
De-
and that's super, super
Definitely,
important. Mm-hmm.
we have thought about we have thought that the strategy is extremely well thought out, but usually things never go in DeFi. There's always something, right? So, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it is really important to have that vision and the strategy behind it. So we have spent a lot of man hours thinking about it together and taking feedback from the taking feedback from the community to see what's the best direction.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, we still have to have the ability to pivot and adapt based on market conditions and whatever random things might come up from time to time.
Yeah, 100%. By the way, if you guys are in the audience, we got a couple more questions to kind of go through right now. But if you have any good questions, feel free to drop them, and you'll be entered into that $100 giveaway. So don't forget about that as we kind of move on through the rest of these questions. Um, so we got another one. Someone is asking, how are you planning on getting projects to use the decks instead of creating their own decks? And I think a lot of that comes into pieces that we've already touched up on with uh
Mm.
all these different features that you're bringing that are very unreasonable for for a project that's already building their own outside project to create at the same time.
Yeah, so they can create their own decks, but then they have the issue of liquidity, right? So
Hmm.
they want to go to a place that already has liquidity and then already has all the options for them to
Hmm.
design or design a bespoke liquidity pool depending on what they want. So
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think that everything we've talked about kind of answers those pieces. Um, and then what's the kind of the short and long term goal of the project? Is short term just to be getting that TVL as high as possible, and then long term kind of expanding into a larger decks for all projects, or what's kind of the for the team, what would be the short and long term goal if you were to put it into
so
words?
Right. So the short term goal is to increase TVL as well as liquidity, right, and get
Hmm.
more different pairs, meaning there are options for people to swap anything on our decks. So we
Hmm.
obviously need to release the pools. Um, we need to stagger the release of the pools because you just can't have 100 different pairings at one time, all with $1 liquidity.
Hmm.
So you gotta have a yeah you yeah, you got to do it. You got to do it like one by one or two by two, and on. And the nice thing is we have the epoch system, so we can kind of aim for like something like, oh, this epoch we're gonna release two or three. The next epoch we'll do another two, and then everybody can be on board with that. So that's the short term plan. We're gonna increase liquidity, grow liquidity in TVL, as well as get as many listing partners as possible to have to have their liquidity on Equinox. The
Hmm.
more the merrier, really. When it comes to liquidity, the more just the more. Give all everything. Just give all. We want it all. So and
Gotcha.
and 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 the long term vision would be mass adoption. Obviously, I mean
Hmm.
that's like I said before. Dexes the product class of Dexes is one that is very very so it's something that we want to bring to all of DeFi.
Hmm.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, I love again the thought process behind that is super super important. And kind of branching with that, since you guys do have these long term goals, is the team KYC'd or doxed, and how do you guys all know each other?
Okay, so the core team right now we have about 6 members.
Hmm.
I think 3 or 4 of us are already kind of docs like that. Like we didn't make it an event or a large thing like, hey, we're docs kind of thing. We just kind of would talk to our community. Like I was mentioning earlier, a lot of people have been of our community has been around for a long time, and so sometimes we just kind of share pictures or like LinkedIn profiles and stuff like that, and then we they
Hmm.
like Yeah, it's so I would call that, I guess, a soft docs, which means
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of people in the community itself, or investors who have been with us for a long time, who already know who we are, know our names or where we stay and stuff like that. But we didn't kind of like go public with it and make a big deal out of it. I don't think there's an actual need, because there have been a lot of projects with docs leadership that can, you can still, bro. I say this a lot of times when people ask security questions about KYC, audit, and
Mm-hmm.
doxing. Right, there are a million ways to rug in DeFi. So, and
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're docs or KYC or auditor. It's really
Mm-hmm.
all about. I guess the best way would be to your uh your intentions, or your track, with the track
Mm-hmm.
record. So we've been around for like close a good part of a half a year, 6 7 months already,
Mm-hmm.
and we've been continuously building. There've been many points where we could have just exited the whole thing. There've been many points where we could have just given up and then chalked it up as a failure. But we continued to develop, fought back,
Mm-hmm.
got back up to where we needed to be, and then fell down again, obviously, and then came back up, and then you know how it goes, man. It's the
Yeah.
Wild West, right? You got sometimes there's a shootout, and you have to survive.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah, I
so that's
definitely agree.
yeah. So
I think
as
that I'm sorry, go on.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean that's kind of all I wanted to say. I mean, it's I think a large part of security cannot be ascertained right off the bat. Because here's the thing about audits: you can pay for a very expensive audit and then deploy a different contract on the next day and still rug.
Mm-hmm.
And you can KYC everybody and then just give fake IDs and still rug.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can KYC, and then if you're not in a country where crypto regulation or the law is wants to prosecute you, just nothing's gonna happen. So it really is about when people talk about decentralization, that really, you can even decentralize your security by having people, kind of the community itself, build up trust with them, and then have them vouch for you, because you have been around and proven that you're not doing like bandit things.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And I totally think that there's a huge piece. Like, people need to remember it doesn't matter if you're the owner of a multi-billion-dollar business, you can still launder money, right? Like that's always going to be a thing. I think the one piece that a KYC or doxing brings is that if you do something like that, you're not going to be a big player in the space anymore. Now you're kind of removed from the scene, right? Because you can't you
Oh,
there's someone to come after you and try and, deliver it, but that doesn't mean you get your money back. But it does try and
okay.
remove them from the space in general, right? If they see your face again, they might be like, like this person did this. I'm not gonna get into that project. But I 100% get what you're saying, and I don't necessarily think it needs to be like, hey, look at, we're doxing, but it is important, I think, to a lot of people. So definitely increases the trust, the initial trust, seeing the face and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
So to specifically answer the question, I guess so that it doesn't sound like
no, you.
we are we are soft docs, we are auditor, and we are
Mhm.
KYC.
Yes,
All three.
100%.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then would you mind talking about touching up on the MEV protection?
Could you elaborate what do you mean by that?
Um, yeah, it's just a question. Talking about the MEV protection feature. Um, maybe that was a typo. Spartan, would
Mm.
you mind? Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Would you mind retyping that, Spartan? Um, but next I got how do you stop people? So is there a method to stop people from jumping around and using high rewards and then leaving? They said they see that a lot from mercenaries that are, mercenaries in
Yeah.
air quotes that are coming into the space.
Right. So look, the only way you can stop people from selling, or I guess just farming and dumping a token, is to blacklist them, or to make it impossible to sell. But that is exactly the opposite of the spirit of a decentralized free market. So I don't think that trying to stop certain people from selling is the way to go in this respect. I think the better way to go about it is to try and incentivize them to hold, or to provide some kind of avenue, or place for them to put the token rather than just sell it in the market. Which is why one of the first things that we're going to be coming up with, I think this week, we should be able to see a good portion of it, is a AEQ staker, where even though there are some mercenaries, like you mentioned, who come over and kind of just free farm, they can still use the AEQ to get additional yield. So it would be a suboptimal strategy for them to straight up dump the token when there are multiple yield farming layers that they can participate in that can earn them even more. So that's the direction that we're going from. You increase demand, but obviously you want to do both. And
Mhm.
then yeah. So and also another thing we did do is we are kind of focusing or funneling most of the emissions to the dynamo itself. Now that
Mhm.
if you are in the dynamo, you are a AEQ wrap BMP holder, which means it is most unwise for you to dump your own bags if with all of your emissions. So yeah, I mean so the best, like we mentioned earlier, the best or most optimal strategy in order to milk the cow but not kill it is to recompound a good portion of your rewards and then take profit, definitely take profit. But instead of taking profit and letting the profit sit in your wallet and do nothing, provide liquidity to the other pools, right? There are stablecoin pools,
Mhm.
there are blue chip crypto pools, there's all sorts of other pools that you can put your profit in. So provide liquidity and recompound your VAQ position. If you do that cycle, you're getting boosted rewards because of your VAQ back increasing, and then you're getting more emissions because your VAQ is percentage is going up, and you're also growing your liquidity position. And at the same time, we're doing all this, you're actually helping the DEX grow.
Mhm.
So it's win win win.
Yeah, 100%. I think that that's definitely a super important piece. Not taking away the decentralized aspect necessarily, giving allowing people to still have that power to do what they want, but incentivizing them not to. Doing that in a positive way is definitely going to help incentivize people to become long term users, and I think that's probably why your community is developed into such a strong community at Equinox.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
so I'm sorry, go on.
yeah. No, just go ahead. Sorry, I was just clearing my throat.
Oh, you're good. So about the maximal extractable value protection, um, is what
I do
was
believe that's
referenced.
I do believe that is a quite a technical uh question. If I'm not wrong, it refers to how much value can be extracted from a single block on the block. It's like some mining thing. I don't think that really applies to us unless you're using the term maximal extractable value to refer to something else, which means you and I are both thinking of different things, even though we're looking at the same set of words. So I think for this, yeah. So for this particular question, I think you can DM me or open a ticket in the Discord. I'll get back to you on this particular question because I'm not quite sure exactly what you're referring to, though I do have an idea what MEV is.
Gotcha. Yeah, it may not be as applicable to what you guys are doing. I guess one of my I got a couple more quick ones. One of them is anything that we talked about today. Is there anything that is uh kind of in the long term horizon, or is everything up and live now?
Well, the base structure is up. The V system is there. Now it's all about expanding by getting more partners and listings.
Hmm.
And then as we grow the TVL, as we grow the liquidity, we add more new features. There's new things to use AQ for. There's new reasons uh to to get into the dynamo because of the whole bribing system. The rewards go up, and it's a slow expansion. You can't build Rome in a day. So it's you you got to work on it. And yeah, it's definitely a long term vision that we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely makes sense. I love it. I love it. Um, and then one of my very last ones, uh, with all the reading that you do, because you said that you did a lot of reading. Who are some of the most influential authors, or what is the most influential book that you've ever read that is been something that you take away and you're like, okay, this is something I'll apply to the rest of my life.
Yeah, I actually have a very definite answer for that. This will be the last book of the seven series, wrote Stephen King's Dark Tower. So in the seventh book, okay, it's a fantasy book, and in the seventh book, there's a revelation right at the end of the book of his entire journey, and the story. So this is nothing to do with blockchain at all, but or DeFi at all.
Uh-huh.
I have there are other books that I've read that have been very useful for that for all of that, but I don't think any of them have been as useful as to what has helped me develop character from the book that I'm mentioning now, which is the seventh book. It's called The Dark Tower. the whole series is called the Dark Tower, right? And every book has a different name, but the last one is the same name as the entire series. And I don't want to spoil the entire series for everybody. There was a movie starring Idris Elba recently that came out, but what was displayed there is a very, 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 very Hollywood version, and it's nothing close to what the books were at all. And but anyway, so what I learned from that particular book was that there is a cyclical nature to the way that anything happens. Because this hero has gone 7 books now, right? It's this and 20 years of Stephen King's life just reading. That guy is ridiculous. He just sells more books than everybody else, every author combined, right? I mean, it's true, right? Every he takes 90% of the market share when it comes to when it comes to books, right? So this is his magnum opus, the Dark Tower, and his that hero took him 25 years to develop fully, the character develop fully, and right at the end, it there's kind of like a great reset, it kind of like a revelation that reveals the whole thing is a cycle. So that really taught me, especially when you start reading into how market cycles happen, and how inflation and deflation, it's not, they're not counter forces, but they're kind of like on the same circle, and you're just everybody's just rotating around it. So
Mhm.
that really taught me a lot about how I guess many things in the universe work. What goes up has to come down, and what goes down also has to come back up.
Gotcha. So it's the Dark Tower. Is that correct?
Yeah, the Dark Tower.
Awesome.
Right.
I'll definitely have to check that out.
It's 7 books, bro. Good luck. It's fun reading though.
Hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. I love the definite answer that you come up with. Like, oh no, I know what this is. That's really
Yeah,
really great to hear.
I've been asked this many times, and because of that, usually when people ask that, it's about it's in conversations like this, right, with no related subject. But I always draw to that book when it comes to a book that has really held an impression on me, because it's, look, there's a hero story in it, right? So you have the hero story, and then you overlay that with with a description of how the universe works, and then you see him go that cycle, and then you apply that to, and then you kind of look out for that in your daily life, and as years go by, and you realize that it's absolutely true. And I think that's
Hmm.
one of the reasons why it was so fantastic and popular, is because people on some level recognize that the truth is being revealed through the words and through the fantasy, right?
Hmm.
It's that you reveal the truth through the fantasy. So I think that was
Yeah. There's a lot that I think fantasy books have. A lot of that truth that you're speaking about, which people may not realize if they if they've never been into them. But 100%. I agree with you. But I do want to be respectful of your time and everyone else's time. We have a giveaway to announce, and I will be doing that shortly after I'm going to take all these questions. And remember, if you are part of the Cardinal crew, you're 3 times more likely to win it. But we'll be taking all these questions, and as well, if you are, again, part of the Cardinal crew, make sure you hop in the post AMA call, and we will talk about what we've heard today and everything like that. But I really really appreciate you for coming on. It's been a really great hour. And I hope that we get to have you guys on soon again.
I feel the same way, Chris. Thank you very much for having me on, and allowing me to access this audience. And I like the way you host the AMA. It's not just random questions and then going through stuff. It's an actual conversation, which I really appreciate. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. I really appreciate you too. So have a wonderful day, and I will catch all you guys later.